Hello, welcome once again to my kitchen here at Trails N62. Now this isn't going to be a very long video because it's about dehydrating, and it's about dehydrating onions. Now I use a lot of onions in cooking, and I like to use diced onions mostly. You can dehydrate onions in rings if you want to. I do mine diced, and because I put them in a jar, keep them on my countertop here so that when I need some onions in a recipe, I can just stick those in. If it's something like a soup or something like that, and if I need to use them otherwise, then I'll rehydrate them, and I just put them in some hot water for about 30 minutes or so. If I need to quicken it up, I might stick them in a microwave a bit and rehydrate them. They're not exactly like fresh onions, but when you're using it in cooking, they work out just great. So, I'm going to dehydrate some onions and show you how I do that. And the first thing I do is I dice the onions up. I use diced onions because that's mostly what I use. So you can use a lot of different contraptions to dice your onions up. You can use, there's a lot, I've got several of them that will dice, and you just cut and stick it on there and dice it up, and they work great. Don't get me wrong, I've used them for years. I like them, and they're quick and easy. But diced onions, these onions I'm gonna just do it by hand, primarily because I just don't want to have to mess with cleaning the gizmo that I dice them up with. So I'm gonna dice these up by hand. I've got the time, and I'm just kind of goofing off a little bit this morning, so I can sit here and just hand dice these onions. I have 3 bags of onions that I have that are left over from when I purchased some onions for some meals in a jar that I did. I had some extra ones, so I thought, well, I can always dice them up and dehydrate them, and that way they'll give me more dehydrated onions, because they use up pretty quick. So I've got several of those. I'm going to dehydrate them, and I've already got a bunch of them cut already, diced up. Now the first thing when I dice onions is I wear gloves. I don't want onions to smell all over my hands. So I peeled the onions. I've taken the outer peeling off, peeled them down, cleaned them up a little bit, and now I'm ready to dice them. So I'm going to cut them in half lengthwise. See, there's the root end, there's the sprout end, and I'm going to cut it along that line. Then I'm going to lay it flat, and then I cut the sprout end off. And then I'm going to take and I just turn it like this, leaving the root end here because that attaches the onion. And I'm just going to stick the knife in and slice it this way, not going all the way to the back. The back part of it here, I don't go all the way through, I'm just going partial way through. Let me see if I can do it this way for you, show you kind of what I'm talking about. So I don't go all the way through, I'm just kind of doing it partial way through. And you just make it as wide as you want it. If you want bigger ones, you make them a little wider. If you want thinner diced onions, you make it a little smaller. Then you take it and you cut at right degree angle with your slices, and you just slice it off. Again, you can make it as big or as small as you want, depending on what size of diced onions you want. I don't pay much attention to it, I just slice it. Then I have all different sizes onions. And there your onion. It breaks up into nice diced pieces. And that's how I dice my onions by hand. So you can use a machine, you can do it by hand, you can do it however you want to do it. Whatever's best for you, whatever's easiest for you. Because I don't have any of these. I get these down at my local salvage store, and I much prefer to do these already chopped, ready to go. It's $3 for 5 pounds of chopped onions. So it makes the work a lot easier, a lot better when I can get these. This is how I dehydrate my onions with these. So I'm putting this in just to let you know. Normally I do it this way. I don't always chop my own onions. I was doing some other canning projects. Had to have some onions for it. I was running low on my dehydrated onions, so I needed to dehydrate some more. They didn't have any down at the local salvage store, so I bought some extra onions so I could dehydrate some. But now they do about 2 bags of these, 10 pounds of already chopped onions. All I have to do is put these on the dehydrator trays, and I'm ready to go. So just a little insight there. Hey, I am all about the less work you have to do to get something good, the better off you are. Now on with the video. Okay, my onions are all diced up, ready to go. I'm going to be putting them on my dehydrators here. And I'll be using my mats so that they don't fall through, because there's some slots in here when they start drying out. They could fall through those. So in order to prevent that, I'm using these mats here that I made. And basically what I do is I'll just take the onions, put them on the mat here, and just kind of spread them out. Try to get them in an even single layer as much as possible. As they dry, they will shrink quite a bit. Oh, there's one didn't get cut up here. Now if you're going to do your onion rings, or do your onions in rings, they do need to be blanched. I don't do them in rings. I don't use onion rings. I use diced onions, so you don't have to blanch these. And I just kind of spread them out, try to get them in as a single layer, flatten them out so they'll dry easier. Got a few too many on there. They don't necessarily have to be in a single layer, but they will dry better, dry quicker, and dry easier that way. So you just kind of flatten them out, spread them out into a single layer. If you got too many, take some out, spread them out. Now the time on these varies. I've read anywhere from 3 or 4 hours to 20 hours. So as with any dehydrating, you dehydrate it till it's done. That's the only thing. So I'm starting this in the morning, and we'll let it run till it's done. Now the other thing about onions is they do smell. So bear in mind, now I've done these before and I've done them outside. Kind of cold out this morning. But I'm going to go ahead and do these inside in my kitchen here off to the side. And yes, it will smell up the house like onions. But that's okay, because I like the smell of onions cooking. But if you don't, make your place outside, do them outside. It's like some of these I didn't get chopped up very good. But if you do them in the house, remember this very important thing. Don't have any clothes hanging around where you're dehydrating them. Because trust me, from personal experience, the clothes will absorb the onion odor. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish these up, and we'll get these things on the dehydrator. Okay, I've got my onions all put on my dehydrators. I have two dehydrators. Both of them are Nesco. This one here is an older one, and this is the newer one here. I actually like the older one better. A couple of reasons: because it has an adjustable thermostat on it, and the newer one is set at 135 degrees. The other thing is, this one is easier to pack with loose stuff like this because the center of it has a little lip that keeps stuff from going down. Now this one generates the heat to dry from the bottom, whereas the other one generates the heat to dry from the top. So there's a unit that sets down in that, and the problem with that one is the hole in the middle will allow food to fall down if you're not careful. So it's a little more difficult to pack. So I have 6 of this one and 3 of this one. I can actually put 8 per unit if I want to. I chose not to go ahead and load this one all the way up because it'll dehydrate better if there's fewer, and otherwise I would just have 2 on this one or 1 on this one, and I didn't want to run it with just 1. So I'm going to run 6 and 3. I may have to put an empty one on the bottom of this. I think you have to have 4 in order for the unit to work because it sticks down. The motor sticks down into the unit. So I think I have to put one on the bottom or the top in order to give this enough space to rotate the heat and the air in order for the drying process to work. So I'm going to set these on. It's 9 o'clock. You may have heard the chimes in the background. And so I'm going to set these on and start the dehydrator, and we'll see how it goes throughout the day, and we'll be enjoying the smell of dehydrating onions. Okay, we're about halfway, well, maybe not halfway, but we're 6 hours into our dehydrating process. Now this one here I don't think I'll have to do anything with. We can check it and you can see that it's beginning to dehydrate. See, closer into the middle it's getting done faster, but I'm not going to mess with the trays because there's only 4 of them on there. This one, however, has 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top tray and put it on the bottom and just rotate the trays the middle trays will stay in the middle because that's pretty uniform. But I'm going to rotate the top to the bottom and the bottom to the top to get a more uniform drying, and they're starting to dry a little bit. You can see how much they've shrunk up. So I've rotated around those, top to bottom, bottom to top. And I'll stick them back on the dehydrator there and let them keep going. Alright, the smaller batch is done. Took about 11 hours. And I'll put them in this pan here. I use this because I can dump the whole tray in it without getting it all over the place. Alright, so that's what 3 trays made. As you can see, quite a bit less volume. I'll let that cool, and then I'll put it in a container, probably a jar, and then I'll leave it set in the jar out on the counter closed for about 24 to 48 hours, something like that, maybe 3 days, whatever, to make sure, and that's called conditioning. You make sure that there's no moisture left in it, it doesn't clog together, it doesn't cause there's no wet spots in it, so that there's no moisture left in it that causes mold or anything like that. So it feels pretty good, feels pretty dry. So I think it's going to be alright, so we'll let it cool. Then I'll put it in a jar and then we'll condition it for a few days. The other one is still going. It may take a few more hours because there was more of it, more volume to dry. And it's a different dehydrator, so it dries differently. But we'll get that one when it's dry. We'll see how long that takes. Alright, now like I say, I leave the onions in the pan that I take them out of the dehydrator in, let them cool. You need to let them get cool before you try to put them in anything to condition them, because the heat will generate moisture in the air if you put them in there warm. So let them cool down thoroughly, and then you put them in a container. A Ziploc freezer bag is a great one to use because you can move it around, look at it. This, in this gallon size freezer bag, that's 6 trays of dehydrated onions. Or you can use a mason jar. I got them in this one here so that I can roll them around where there's enough room and space in there. It's sealed, but it's not vacuum sealed, so I can roll it around and check and see if there's any moisture content in there. And both these are good. There's no moisture content. What I'll do is I'll put these in a mason jar and use my vacuum sealer. Has a jar lid sealer. The vacuum seals the jar. Reconstituting. You see here, this is 1/4 cup of onions. Notice the difference between those onions there and these onions here. Alright, they don't reconstitute probably as full, because onions are full of moisture, as when you slice it up or dice it up from a fresh onion. But this is 1 teaspoon of this that's been rehydrated. I just put it in a bowl, soak it in some water, let it soak, then strain it, and that's what it comes out to. So 1 teaspoon. This was a level teaspoon. If you do a rounded teaspoon, you'll probably get a better 1/4 cup of onion. So 1 rounded teaspoon of dehydrated onion will yield you 1/4 cup of hydrated onions that you can use in your meals. So that's fried onion. The other thing is, my old dehydrators have finally bit the dust. I had them, well, I'm thinking I had the one for about 30 years, the other a little over 20 years, so they've done me good. And so I thought I better get a new one, so I ordered a new one. I thought about getting an Excalibur, which are supposed to be top of the line, but I just don't do enough dehydrating to warrant that kind of price. Nesco has always done me a good job on whatever product I use with Nesco. It's American made, and so I got me a new Nesco dehydrator. It's really pretty good. I like it. It's bigger than the ones I had, and basically I've got this one here, and this one I liked because it has this middle part here that comes up to keep stuff from going down in the hole. So it's a bottom feed, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But it comes with 8 trays. The old ones only came with 4 trays. I bought 4 extra trays for each one. For that size, they say you don't use more than 8 because it was smaller. Matter of fact, the old dehydrator will actually fit down inside of this one. The entire tray with the sides and everything will actually fit down inside of this one. So this is a bigger one. It's got a bigger motor, it's twice the wattage. Those old ones were 550 watts. This one is 1100 watts. So it came with 8 trays to start with. I ordered 2 more so I'd have 10. It's probably as much as I'll do. It also comes with each tray comes with these, and then the old one, the smaller stuff, so it doesn't fall through. The old ones only came with one, so I had to make all my other ones, or buy them. And it was a whole lot cheaper to make them than buy them. But these, each one of them comes with one of these, and each one of them comes with one of these solid ones. I don't know, they call them fruit roll-up trays, they used to. But it's a solid one for more liquidy stuff that you want to dehydrate. And so it came with 8 of those for each one for each one, which is great. I don't have to make it, you don't have to worry about it. The other thing is about this dehydrator, it says, I can't imagine doing it, but it says it will do 30 trays. So you can stack it up 30 trays high. That's pretty high. I'm not going to be doing 30 trays on it. I've got 10, I think that's the most I'll do on it. But I'm anxious to try it out. I haven't figured out what I'm going to dehydrate yet, but I'm going to try it out. So I did get a new one, and it's a Nesco. I like it. It's the kind that I like, and I couldn't justify paying the money for an Excalibur. And there's a lot of different brand names of dehydrators out there, but I've always had a good luck with Nesco products. I'm not endorsing Nesco. I'm not recommending Nesco. I'm just telling you what I use, okay? They didn't pay me anything to say this, all right? So let me show you my dehydrator. Okay, so this is it. Like I said, it comes with 8 trays. There's a bottom, blowers on the bottom. It has adjustable temperatures here. And the lid goes on it like this. And there it is. I'm looking forward to using it. And that's it. Dehydrating onions. It's really pretty simple. And hope you enjoyed the video. So from my house to your house, from my kitchen to your kitchen. God bless.